So we lost seat 5, huh?
Well, apparently, and just for your heads up, we got, when they're out, and if they miss if they miss 2 meetings in a physical
Yeah,
year,
seen that.
yeah, we might have to, I don't know if she's missed 2. I know the other one's missed 2, and I don't even think she's responding.
Yeah.
So that's probably a done deal, but she does business, so I get while she's out, but I think we still have to reappoint her. Probably the next meeting, I think we meet for the budget.
Okay.
So if you can just put an agenda item, because we know what she's doing, but for the bylaws, I think we're required to have to reappoint her before we get started with the budget
Okay,
for
I
the
take a note.
next meeting.
I will check, okay.
Oh, yeah, and I might be wrong, it might not be, I thought there was something in June or July she missed due to business, or I think the school, she was, not school, but I think she was taking her law.
She was taking the law.
bar.
Yeah, the bar.
exam.
So again, excuses, I mean, good excuses, so that's why it's not a big deal to reappoint.
No problem, I will check the
But we still have to.
attendance. You know,
If
I
that's
have to-
true, yeah, just checking, if not, great, if we do, she's good, so we appreciate all the help we can get.
Perfect.
Everyone good? All right, good evening. I call to order the April 25th, 2023 Finance Committee regular meeting. Will you please call roll?
Chairman Reinhardt,
Here.
Vice Chair Hoagland,
President Hoagland,
Member Streeter, absent. Member Brooks,
Present?
position number 5, seat number 5 is vacant.
Well, we have enough for a quorum, so we're good to go. First business, we have Council Member Ken Gilbert here to present the committee with a gift.
It's my honor to be able to do this, offer the certificate, and I can even get it framed if you guys would like. Finance is very important to me and many of the companies I've run, but being on city council, it's super important to be part of the finance. If you look at budget line items and look at how far they are and what we're doing and how the city's growing, this is the most important, non-sexy place we need to be in to make sure finances are correct. APAR is how I've run my companies, 17 of them. If it don't make sense, it don't make sense, but thank you guys for doing this. Small gifts from the city. Thank you very much. Mr. Hoagland, I called you, nominated you again, and you sent it to Texas, and we
said I wouldn't come unless you brought me a gift. So
Dude,
thank
that's
you.
what I said, you know?
Thank
And
you
no
for
one-
following up.
And no one came. Yeah. At a birthday party, no one came, I guess, because of the gifts. But thanks for all you do and your astounding knowledge and your commitment to the city.
Thank you.
I did talk to your son on the phone, and we communicated, and I sent you congratulations. You go, what for? You know, for being you, man, for being a cool dude. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
This city council position is new to me. I've never been in government. I know what you do and what we do is just serve the people. And for me, that's more important than anything else. Absolutely. They say, get a shirt out the back. The Lord says, give me a coat. At the time of reference of those biblical statements, very few coats were had. So what you guys do is you give the coats, and not just the shirts. So I appreciate that. Mr. Brooks, I don't know if we ever met, but can I have your hair? I'm trying to.
You want the gray, you want the gray or the
Boyd,
black?
I can do anything, me and Boyd have been working on
I've got
this
first
stuff.
dibs on that.
But to have that, but again, my sentiments are, being a business owner and finances, if it don't make sense, it don't make sense, and you guys make sense of everything, so thank you for your position, and
Well,
I
thank
hope
you.
you know I'm with you in, serving the citizens of St. Cloud, and, just want to say thanks, and
Thank
invited me
you.
to come here tonight, honored to be the guest to present that, and I know it's a tough position. Without you, where you go, so I appreciate it. Anything I can do, I'm retired, I work 80 hours a week as a council person, but I'm retired. I don't know how that happened. Mr. Oakley, you probably know that too, so thank you very much.
Retire?
I tried to.
What is that?
Yes, it's not good for folks like us, I
Yeah.
promise you that, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the role.
If you need me, I'm in my office right now. I'm trying to juggle the 1,026 pages for the council meeting on Thursday. You have to read.
Only
And
500 a day
I
from now
know,
to that.
it's kind of crazy. And then Mr. Rocker, Billy's got me making sure my Bible studies are ready for tomorrow, so I can go to his house and study. But I'll be back there. We got sodas and waters, and I can order pizza. But
Yes,
I'll be here hopefully not longer than you, but.
You know about his brother-in-law, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We graduated together,
Yeah,
so.
so, yeah, it was, good folks in St. Cloud, I'm proud to be one of them, and again, thank you. I'm available, and please, I can learn so much from having lunch with you, and
No problem.
they all, the city attorney goes to me, hey, Ken, be patient, this isn't private. I go, does it make sense? Let's do it. So I'm learning protocols and stuff like that. But I can't appreciate you all enough for finance. So
Thank you very much.
thank you, sir.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Next is the approval for the minutes for January 24th, 2023. If you want to take a minute to review them.
And
Unless
I
you-
read the copies you sent, so I didn't
Yeah.
find anything.
Okay, perfect.
And then
Kim's
so
over there.
Then the chair will take a motion.
I would propose that we, oh, shush. Propose that we accept the minutes has been so
Got a
dutifully-
recommendation for
Yep.
approval? A second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right. Scott? Is he,
In 4 minutes. He called at exactly 6:15. I'm waiting the call.
We could go ahead and get started with my part of it if you like.
Sounds good.
So we're not wasting time.
perfect.
I don't know if I can finish in 4 minutes, but we'll at least get started.
Set a record.
So this is the Finance Committee Budget Report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2023. And as you see, the purpose on there is to present highlights of the City of St. Cloud's second quarter budget. So here's our top 10 revenues. As you can see, we're through 50% of the year, so the ones at 50% or more are good. The few that are left, we have had slower than usual impact fees due to the slower pace of building permits and building in general. But that's starting to pick up, so I believe you'll see that start to increase. The infrastructure sales tax is only through the month of February, so we're still missing March and the second quarter payment, so we're actually on pace to eclipse that. We're going to probably collect in excess of $8 million in that account. Refuse service fees, we've not received March yet. Toho is collecting those for us at present, and so we should be getting those here soon. So no concerns there. Half-cent sales tax, same. It's only through the month of March, so we're on track there. And the same for the St. Cloud Toho interlocal. We haven't received March or the stormwater service fees, which also Toho is collecting on our behalf. And county gas taxes, we actually haven't received those for February or March. But overall, revenues are in good shape in compared to our budget estimates.
Yeah, Frank?
Yes?
Question, is there a difference on the impact fees for, say, a private citizen simply having a house built, or for these large apartment complexes going in? Is there an equal amount of money coming in from, say, the big apartments as there would be for housing? If that makes sense?
Well, yes, we get greater impact fees, the larger the structures are. I don't have the particular information on what's happened thus far, but I think just building in general, both single-family homes and multifamily homes were all down. They've picked up in the last month or so overall, but I think in answer to your question, yes, we collect more impact fees for the larger structures like apartment buildings and whatnot than we do for, say, a single-family home.
Well, I'd realize that, but I'm saying for, say, for an acre, if you just put a single-family home on that, obviously, we're not going to get much. But square foot for square foot, or however you want to measure it, are the developers paying more square foot for square foot than are the single-family homes?
Good night.
The developers building what?
From PFM.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Ineida from finance. How are you?
I'm well, thank
Here.
you.
Okay,
For you.
Mr. Scott, I'm ready for you for your discussion.
If we can just
Okay.
let him just
Great.
finish his answer.
Yeah,
and
I'll
then
just finish this. So,
Yeah. Just a couple minutes.
so a single-family home, no matter who builds it or the size of it, I believe that most impact fees are the same. You're paying so much police impact fees, so much fire impact fees, so much park impact fees, and it doesn't matter if you build it yourself or a contractor builds it. Is that your question? Now, if they build an apartment complex, of course, they're going to pay more because it's based on the number of expected occupants, so that's more impact to our roads, our parks, our police, our fire.
Okay.
Okay. If you could go ahead and switch us to the PFM one, and then we'll switch back to this after Scott's finished, so we don't hold him up.
All right, Scott, we're good to go.
Hi, good, okay, good afternoon. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. I guess it's actually good evening too, not good afternoon. I will start on page 3 of the presentation that you have before you. When we get closer to performance, I'll talk a little bit about the economy, the backdrop during the first quarter of this year, just because I think it provides a good foundation for why the performance is what it is. So if I could again, I'll jump in on page 3, and this is what I refer to as our compliance summary. And on this page, we're looking at the sector allocation analytics. The gray bars represent the percentages or max allocations allowable by your policy. And then the blue represents the actual allocation. So in this case, for example, U.S. Treasuries have a 100% max allocation allowable by policy. And today there's roughly 63% in the portfolio. So you're well within the guidelines set by the policy parameters. And that's true across all the sectors that you see on this page. Similar format on page 4, where we give you max maturity analytics. And the maximum maturities, as you can see, is set at 5.5 years really across all sectors. And again, the blue represents the actual allocations to those sectors referenced on the page. And again, you're well within the parameters set by the policy. So there's no compliance issues from an investment policy standpoint in the portfolio. If we go to I'm sorry, was there a question?
Nope.
No? Okay. If we go to page 6, then we'll look at some of the specifics of the portfolio. And you'll recall that we are in a buy and hold situation right now. So we've not been actively managing the portfolio in preparation for the transition of assets to Toho Water Authority. And one of the big results of that buy and hold strategy is you've seen duration drift in. So looking in that upper left-hand corner on page 6, you'll see portfolio effective duration relative to the benchmark duration. And you can see that the portfolio is now very short relative to the benchmark. So what that means is duration is typically a risk measure to determine the interest rate sensitivity of your portfolio. And a higher duration means your portfolio has more interest rate sensitivity. A lower duration number means you have less interest rate sensitivity. So in this case, you can see you have much less interest rate sensitivity relative to your benchmark, the 1 to 5 year Treasury index. Again, in a rising rate environment, that would be very beneficial. But this past quarter, we saw a massive flight to quality, and Treasury yields fell sharply. The 2-year Treasury itself fell from 5.07% in early March to under 4% by mid-March. So just a dramatic and rapid move in the Treasury market. And again, as interest rates fall, bond prices go up. So the short duration stance, again, as a result of waiting for this transition to Toho, it really worked against you from a total return standpoint, which we're going to look at here in a second. Now, again, it wasn't all detrimental because it was a good quarter from a bond return standpoint, but it didn't do as good as it could have if we had been actively managing the portfolio and had the duration in line with the benchmark. So I'll just stop there with comments around duration. I think it'll make a little more sense when we look on the next page, but let me touch on some of the other statistics before we move there. We ended the first quarter of 2023 with a total market value of $144,872,586. Of that, about 13.8 or 13,864,000 is in cash. Again, as things are maturing, we're letting them remain there for the transition. The yield at cost has remained pretty steady over the last 4 quarters, again, because of the fact that we've taken more of a buy and hold approach. So the yield at cost in the portfolio stands at 1.26%. To put that into perspective, if we were to go out and recreate your portfolio today, hypothetically speaking, we would earn about 4.3%. So that gives you an idea of how much interest rates have moved, when you take into account the Fed's actions in 2022 and then into early 23 as well. You'll note the duration distribution. I just spoke to the 1.76 years. We give you that breakdown. So what are the different duration buckets that make up those numbers? The blue lines, and I'm in the bottom right-hand corner here. The blue lines represent the portfolio. The gray bars represent the benchmark. And you can see, as you would expect, if your duration relative to the benchmark is quite short, you would be overweight in that 0 to 1 year space, and that is the case here. Again, just in anticipation of further maturities to occur, and again, in preparation for things to come here. The portfolio, again, remains highly liquid, highly safe, with the majority of the portfolio in treasuries, and it does carry a very high credit quality at AA. I'll go to page, well, let me stop, just make sure there's no questions around the duration conversation.
Just got a quick question. You're taking out
Sure.
with the cash value that we have, it's 9.5% roughly. Is that a standard that you go by, or it's just
No,
what did you
no.
come up with to get to that 13 million?
No, it's totally in preparation for some of these assets moving to Toho Water. We would remain fully invested if we were actively managing the portfolio. Again, you would see cash fully invested. You'd see the duration in line with the benchmark. But this is just a strategy that was agreed upon last year. I guess I'm hoping to get some sort of update. I heard Jeff speaking earlier. I'm guessing Donna and Wendy are there as well. Is this a good time to maybe just get an update on the status of how things are progressing?
Well, first of all, Wendy no longer is with the city of St. Cloud.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that would be the first thing. Right
right.
now, we're still in the process of transferring water and sewer impact fees to Toho as cash balances allow us to do so. So we're allowing, so that's why you see the cash balance. We're allowing investments to mature, turn into cash, and then we in turn transfer the cash to Toho that
Right.
represents the water and sewer impact fees. We expect that to continue through the rest of this calendar year, and hope to be complete with that process by the end of December. And then, after that, we can go back to a more active investment management situation.
Yeah.
Donna, anything to add to that?
Can you hear me?
Your mic isn't on.
Sure.
Put the mic closer, maybe.
There you go.
Of that $13 million, we did send 12.5 of that. We've transferred that down to us, and we've sent that to Toho already, and that represents this quarter's water and sewer impact fees that we had planned to fund them.
What does that leave the approximate balance of to still be transferred to Toho?
I don't have that
I
in
don't know
front
off the
of
top of
me.
my head, but it's still it's substantial into the
About 40.
about $40 million more that we have to transfer to them because it's water and sewer impact fees. They no longer belong to us. But rather than prematurely selling our investments, we've chosen to, and they've agreed to wait till the investments mature, and then we'll pay them as we can. Okay, Scott.
Thanks, Jeff and Donna. I appreciate that information.
Okay.
And I'll just note that, the second quarter appears to be as I'm looking at a spreadsheet I shared with you all a few quarters ago. Second quarter appears as though it'll be pretty light from a maturity standpoint. I'm looking at roughly $5 million in the second quarter. So that's not going to put a big dent in that $40 million that needs to move over there. But I think what I'll do is project out third quarter and fourth quarter maturities just to update the spreadsheet and just get a better picture of what we might be looking at from to eat into that approximately $40 million. So I'll send that over to you and Jeff and Donna sometime here in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But did I address? Does that help address the question though around cash?
Yes, sir. It did.
Okay, good. If we go to page 7, you can kind of see the breakdown by sector over the last 4 quarters, and you can see the effect of, again, the cash spend down and transfer to Toho. I mentioned earlier that, the security subtotal is about $130 million, the cash balance about $13 million. That got us to that $144 million. So this chart does not take into account cash balances. It just allows you to see the security, underlying sector and security values. Again, I mentioned the fact that it's highly liquid, highly safe, with the majority of the assets in treasuries, another 5% in agencies. What you're most interested in seeing, though, is on page 8. And I mentioned that it was a good quarter. As a matter of fact, we've had 2 good quarters. We've had back-to-back positive readings, or I should say positive performance in the portfolio. The fourth quarter produced positive returns. It was actually the first quarter we've seen positive returns since the third quarter of 20. I'm trying to find that on my notes here. I think it was 2021 was the last time we saw positive returns for fixed income portfolios. So fourth quarter 22 produced positive returns, and now the first quarter, as you can see on page 8, provided pretty handsome positive returns. Now, again, the portfolio was up 1.54%, the benchmark up 1.82%. So we did lag the benchmark, but again, that was due to the short duration stance of the portfolio. And I mentioned earlier that interest rates fell dramatically, which again caused bond prices to go up, which caused total return to go up dramatically. But unfortunately, we didn't get to fully partake in that run up in bond prices due to the short duration stance. So hopefully the 1.5% return eases that pain a little bit of the underperformance, and the fact again that we had almost 90 basis points of positive return in the fourth quarter is really helping to erase some of those unrealized losses that the portfolio does have. That those paper losses are starting to fade a little bit with higher income, and again the positive returns we've seen in the fixed income market. So up above that percentage return, we show you what the dollar return is in the portfolio too. So we earned about $412,000, another $1.8 million in change in market value. So the portfolio returned about $2.2 million in the 3 months ending March 31st. And you can see the portfolio did slightly turn positive if you're looking at the trailing 12 months for the 1 year return 0.02% versus a negative benchmark. Okay. Any questions on the portfolio performance?
No, sir.
Okay. Or anything else with regard to the portfolio? That's really all I had as far as prepared remarks. But I'd be glad to go anywhere else you'd like.
No, sir, I think we're good.
No other questions?
Okay.
Nope, we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for your time.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Scott.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care. Bye.
All right, Jeffrey, back to you.
Okay. We'll give him a second to switch me back.
While we're waiting, John, are we as a city satisfied with what they are doing in terms of managing our portfolio, or?
I believe so, yes, from what
Yeah,
we've tasked them with doing.
you know, we lost the guaranteed 1% with SunTrust, now Truist, that we were getting as an interest rate. So they're getting better interest rates than we would be able to get on our own. And actually, once they actually get to play a more active role, once we get Toho, the impact fees transferred to them, you'll see a big difference. So, yeah, so far so good. Okay. So now we're on the major fund revenues. Again, this is through 50% of the year. So general fund is at 57%. It would normally be higher than the benchmark of 50% just because we collect most of our ad valorem revenues in the first couple months, December and January. The sanitation fund is at 44.8%. We haven't collected March. The building fund, 39.7%. As mentioned, the building activity has been down for much of this fiscal year, so that's reflective there. The stormwater fund is only showing 23.8%, but it's missing the month of March. And also there's a large part of that $4 million budget is prior year fund balance, which was attributable to project SW 2006, the Illinois Avenue piping. So I think for future meetings, to be more reflective of actuality, we're going to take prior year fund balance out of there. That's an encumbrance for that work. So when you roll over your encumbrances from one year to another, it adds to your budget, and then it kind of throws off what we're looking at here. But no concerns there. Any questions on this slide?
No.
The major fund expenditures, as you can see, we generally prefer these to be under 50% through 50% of the year, which the general fund is. That would be the most important one. However, as noted, this does include encumbrances, so those are purchase orders not yet expended. So like the sanitation fund has a major one for their tipping fees that they have an encumbrance for the whole year. And of course, we're only through 50% of the year, so that's kind of what throws them off. The building fund, again, their revenue has been down, so we've been in the process of trying to hold their expenditures back. They're kind of ramping back up again, but that's why that's a little high. And the stormwater fund includes $2.6 million in encumbrances. As I mentioned, much of that for project SW 2006, the Illinois Avenue piping. So that's why that looks a little crazy because of that, the big encumbrances.
Has there been a future forecast for any major building that's going to happen to help the building fund any?
Yes, the new area called Edgewater has been approved by the city council.
The one over off of Hickory Tree?
I'm not 100% familiar, but it's a rather large area of many thousands of homes. It's off the turnpike somewhere. I couldn't tell you exactly, but the answer to that question is yes, and much of our activity now is coming from there.
Okay.
The major fund surplus and deficit. And this is excluding encumbrances, so basically this is cash. This is cash in, cash out. The general fund is up $9.7 million. Sanitation fund is up $310,000. Building fund is actually up $276,000. When we exclude their encumbrances, like the building fund, we still have the encumbrance for the atrium. It's not finished yet. And the stormwater fund is doing a little bit better than breaking even. So all those are good news. And finally, the general fund departmental expenditures. This is just broken down by department. Again, we're through 50% of the year, so we would expect them to be in the 40% range or so. City council is always going to show low because they have a large contingency budget, which hopefully we don't need to spend, which we haven't spent much of. The other ones that may be a little out of bounds are Information technology is at 38.1%. They currently have 2 of their 11 positions vacant. And of course, about 60%, or if not a little bit more, of the total budget is staff salary and benefits. So that's why that one's a little low. And the one for 38% of code enforcement, it's a very small budget, and just verified that they had budgeted for an additional position, so a vehicle and some related items, that they ended up making a administrative assistant instead, so they don't need a vehicle for that person. So that's why that's a little low, and that particular budget is quite small. Everything else is on track. The intergovernmental transfers, those are reflecting a little high, but that's because the general fund contributed $1,018,000 towards the atrium as recommended / required from the auditors to pay for the portion of the atrium that's not specifically being used for building department staff, building fund staff. So basically what's in there is that, plus the general fund contribution to the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency. It's 300 and something thousand. That is done on a monthly basis, $27,000 a month, something like that. But the $1 million has been already transferred from the general fund to repay the building fund for the lobby. Basically, the lobby of the atrium was paid by the general fund, because building permit funds cannot fund an area not exclusively used for building fund staff, if that makes sense. Okay, and thank you. And any questions of any kind? Okay.
Perfect. Nice and smooth. Just some comments. I'm looking at the next budget workshop meeting is scheduled for June 27th. And they have a slated one for, if we continue to go over, for June 28th. And then we have to then follow. Now, I don't understand this. It says regular quarterly meeting will be Tuesday, the 25th of July.
Correct.
So we're not gonna, okay. I see what we're doing. We're moving, obviously moving the budget much earlier, because we usually do them all on one time.
Even prior to Ms. Colazzo's departure, we had already planned on trying to move the process up earlier. It just gives us more time to do a better review and, hopefully make the whole process a lot smoother. So basically, we've moved everything up a month, so that's why this meeting will be done in June, and then the quarter is not over in June, so we can't have our third quarter meeting until the third quarter is actually completed. And then I think the city council workshop is later in July, so we've tried to move the whole process up about 30 days.
All right. Question.
And we don't believe we'll need the second day either. That's been on there from some time ago, where I believe it did take 2 days. But I try to keep it sort of simple. We'll have all the directors available to you, and we'll go department by department like we always do. But I don't think you're going to see any radical changes, because we're still in a bit of a transition away from having the utility with us. That creates some loss of revenue. So we're sort of transitioning to that away from Toho, and also away from American Rescue Plan Act funding, which will no longer be available to us, as that's been already absorbed within the budget. So I think at last check, our whole budget for the general fund is only expected to be possibly 3% more than it is at this moment.
Are we going to be, what are we looking at? Because I'm not seeing it on here for time. What time we starting? Because last year you kind of blindsided us and like, hey, we want to have it like 2 o'clock. And then we was like, no, we can do it like a 4 or something. So
What time would you like it? I mean, we would prefer for everybody's purposes to start a little earlier than we would start this meeting, just so we're not here half the night or whatever. But, maybe you want to talk about it with your
Well, that's what I was just
council
wanting to know.
people and let us know. We're pretty flexible. I'm not set on starting it at 2 o'clock because don't hold me to this, but I would say maybe 3 hours for the tops.
That's awesome.
yeah, that's traditional. I mean, I know when they started doing stuff, I know we ended up pushing. I think we started at 4 last year, bumped it a couple hours early, which I think I'm good with. I mean,
I've got flexibility, meat for breakfast.
so I can with advance notice. I think 4 is good for me. How about you with your schedule?
I'll try to make it at 4 that day.
Okay.
I have to get off work.
We'll,
That same me, but I'll do my best for that day if that's possible.
Yeah, all right.
Donna, you had a
I was just going to point out that that's the week of the FGFOA annual conference. I don't know if any of the members are attending this year.
I don't think so. Are any of you going to the FGFOA conference? And it generally ends about that time, so and I will be here.
It's
I
in
mean-
Orlando, so you have time to travel back.
So we'll tentatively plan on like 4 o'clock unless you tell us otherwise. We got a little bit of time. We got 2 months still, so if you want to start it at 5, I don't have any big issue with that because I would still intend to get us out of here by 9 o'clock.
As I know we had that I'm trying to figure why we had a break. We did something, had a break. I know we ate and then came back and,
Well, we had both meetings combined last year, so we had our regular agenda meeting and you did all that, and then I think we did take a break after that and then have the budget workshop. But as it stands now, we're just doing the budget workshop. We'll take at least a
we're going to be here.
small break in the middle.
Well, we're going to be here for our dinner, so maybe you guys can work on doing something like we did last year. So when maybe we can pop a half-hour break or something, so everyone's coming from work.
Okay.
And maybe if you guys can,
We can arrange that.
that's what happened last time. So we took like a 20, 30-minute quickie break, and then we went back at banging it out. But if we're going to be here 3 to 4 hours.
If you let Anita know, like, what your eating preferences are, we'll be more than happy to,
It's just,
Try to get
food
you
for
something.
thought. No pun intended. But,
Oh, I totally agree. I don't want to be here for 4 hours with, nothing.
yeah, especially if we're working and then coming straight from work, we're not really.
And everybody's going to need a restroom break in the
Yeah,
middle
absolutely.
anyway, so, okay, we'll plan on
Just
that. We'll
something-
We'll go about 2 hours, hour and a half, or maybe we'll do the general fund and stop there, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll finish the rest of the funds. Like I said, I'm a keep it simple kind of guy, so I'm going to be straight to the point and then let you ask questions of the department directors.
Question with regards to the preparing for the budget review. Are there any major projects that the different departments are going to be introducing that we are not really aware of their needs that would make it possible for us
Not that I know of,
visit
but
or know of, so
I
we're
can
not-
give you tomorrow I can send you the tentative list of projects that are going to be funded.
Okay,
Most of the ones are year two funding of some of the streets projects that we started last year. 10th Street, Complete Streets, Massachusetts Extension, I can't think of all of them. Probably the major one is the rebuild for Fire Station 32. Because that's $10 million, so we'll be funding the remainder of that. We already have about half of it funded.
What about light rail? You getting that?
No.
Just throwing it out there.
But
Traffic's
yeah,
not bad.
tomorrow I'll send you the preliminary list at least, and then we do intend on, as soon as I can do it, I will send you the package for the meeting so you can kind of review through it, make notes,
Yeah.
ask some questions, and then you can be ready. So I will at least intend to get you that at least a week ahead of time.
Perfect.
okay, thank you.
A question with the, you were talking about the fire. Are we putting money aside for the, what's it called, safety complex? Is that still something that I know we were looking at, it was such a large number. I didn't know if we were I thought Wendy had mentioned putting stuff aside, periodically throughout the years to get,
That was the intent at one time. At this time, I do not think this public safety complex is happening.
gotcha. We're not losing the property though, are we?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir. I think it's just, again, coming up with the plan for how we would pay for that item. Because, it would be a large, bond type of issue, $50 million or something in that range, so
Well, that's what was making me
it's not
wonder.
being pursued at this time, to my
Okay.
knowledge.
So, but you were talking earlier, which is fine. I'm just like, but you're saying a fire department. I thought last time we talked about a fire department, it was like $5 million. Now it's doubled in a year's time.
That is correct. I don't know.
That's
if
not
it
even
w-
counting equipment.
I
That was
don't know
just
if
the
it
building.
was. I don't know if it was ever 5 million. I think at one time it was 7-ish. But yes, the costs over the past, I think the $7 million figure goes back maybe 18 months or 2 years ago. But yes, I mean, inflation and supply chain issues are still there. So the latest estimate is about $10 million for that. And we also need Fire Station 35 as well. So that will be probably next up, and then not quite decided how that one's going to be funded, if we're going to try to do that in some kind of a public safety bond as well.
Which one are we looking at redoing? Or is this the one off of near
32.
Kissimmee Park Road?
Donna?
It is the little one by the Turnpike entrance?
Kissimmee Park.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're trying to expand that, and it's too crowded for
Oh, yeah.
even the firefighters that are there. So, yes, they're trying to expand that. And then we're also applying for this SAFER grant for next year, so for 15 firefighters. And we've also applied for a COPS grant for, I believe, 6 police officers. So we will be anxiously awaiting the results of those. So we won't be adding any firefighters, and I believe we're intent on adding 2 police officers at this time. But the reason for not adding them as part of the budget is you're not allowed to add them and as part of the COPS grant. So if we were to add 6 as part of the budget and we got the COPS grant, we would be forced to add 6 more, and we can't afford that. So we await the results of the COPS grant and the SAFER grant, and hopefully we get one or both of those, and then we see how our financial condition looks then, because we are going to have to, continue to add those types of positions in future years to staff our new fire stations, as well as, for police officers.
Speaking of fire, their equipment was just horrific last year. Breaking down, a ladder truck was shot, but they were a lot of money, and then the supply chain was like a year out to even get a vehicle.
It's 3 years out.
So
It's 3 years now.
are we doing any,
Yep.
is there anything with negotiations to try to get us something, or we just say, good luck with what you
During
have?
the last city council meeting, the council approved basically the immediate purchase of a fire engine, so they wouldn't have to go through the normal process. So basically, they're trying to get one that may be available off the assembly line. And we do have a ladder truck and a regular engine in process already, so.
All right, a couple other things I have questions about is, well, first, I would like, if we can, when you have large, significant staff members change, let us know. It's not really great to come in here and go, oh, yeah, by the way, 3 months ago, she quit. It'd be nice to shoot us an email, hey, and then my next question falls right into this. What's next? You interim? Are you going to be permanent? Are we out hunting for a new person? We have no clue.
I am interim finance director. They are pursuing a finance director through a professional search firm. We're expecting candidates to be interviewed during the month of May. At last check, there were 15 initial applicants, and the company was vetting those. That's the nearest I know it.
Who does okay,
The
so they
final
vet,
decision, yeah.
yeah, they vet them, then they sit on a committee of the council, you and somebody going,
That would be a city manager question. I believe it would be human resources, the city manager. I probably may be in on it just as a subject matter expert, but we would have to ask the city manager because I'm not privy to exactly what the plan is. But
Gotcha.
I'm interim until such time as we get a replacement. But no, it's not going to be me. As I mentioned, in somewhere between 2 and 3 or 4 years, like I will be playing with my grandchildren. So I've told them I'm not the long-term solution, but I will be here until they find a long-term solution.
all right. Kind of limits.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
This is, I guess, more an observation and not a criticism, but it appears, whether it lays at the feet of the city council or what have you, that we are experiencing dramatic growth. But yet we sit here as a committee just struggling to say, will there be enough money to finance another fire station or to get sufficient, all of these, it just seems like we have outgrowth and haven't considered where we're going to get the money from to finance the needs
Infrastructure.
for the infrastructure and so forth.
That's been a
Yep,
big problem
that's
For
throughout the
whatever.
county.
Yeah, and I'm saying,
That's the ultimate, issue is you need the new fire station before all the growth and the associated revenue is there. So that's exactly what the discussions going forward are going to be, that the city will have to do some form of a debt. We've tried to avoid it as much as we can, but it appears with the Fire Station 35 and other fire stations that are needed after that, the impact fees just don't come in fast enough to pay for that.
Is that what you're Does someone go out and research the bonding loans and stuff that you were talking about?
Yes, PFM will do that for us.
Okay.
It's not Scott's section, but we do have PFM available when we're ready to do that. So yes, they will find us. They will kind of walk us through the process because the city's not done that, and it was well prior to my time. Let's put it that way.
So do you think that's overdue?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I would say it's coming due.
Okay.
Based just upon the needs that are coming. You know, I'm the kind of finance guy that I don't like debt because, you know, that just ties your hands for future years, so you have to do it very carefully so you don't get in a bad situation. So what we've tried to do thus far is use available funding. Like the fire station, for example, was funded with fire impact fees that we had available, as well as the 120 fund, and we didn't have to debt any. So the first $10 million fire station is debt-free. Now the next one, that's where
Bite the bullet.
we're gonna have to do debt, whether Mr. Cooper likes it or not.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, a couple others. With the coming budget, are we looking at any increases for employees, such as increases in insurance premiums? And then also, are we looking at any financial raises as well?
Tentatively, the city manager is looking at some combination of COLA, a pay adjustment, sort of call it a merit, and some sort of longevity adjustment. Again, that's just like tentative, so the answer to that would be yes. In terms of health benefits, our costs are going up anywhere between $400,000 and $568,000 as a city. At this point, the city manager is intent on not passing those on to staff. But again, that if that continues over the course of time, there's $500,000 of our increasing tax revenue that's already spent.
Spoken for.
So that takes away our ability to add new positions and so on and so forth. So it becomes a balancing act, but at this point, I don't think staff are going to be affected by that. Tentatively.
Tentatively. Yep.
I can't speak for the city manager, but that's as I know it. I do not, believe that's the intent, because otherwise, you're giving them a pay increase and then charging more for health benefits. So we're trying not to do that, but
That's why I asked.
one year after another, we also have the police union contract negotiations coming soon, and those will come with a cost. The fire union is next year. Those also come with a cost. And the fire union, as I understand it, wants to go to their own health plan, which, if that were to occur, that likely carries a cost for the city as well, because then we have less people in the city plan, which ultimately is probably going to raise costs. So it's all about priorities and, revenue, what we have and don't have.
Doesn't fire already have a guaranteed increase this year?
Yes, sir. They do have a 3% step increase guaranteed. I believe that comes on January 1st of 2024, and the 1% COLA on April 1st of 2024, I believe. So we've already committed to X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra costs when we don't know whether our revenue's going to increase. And, you know, I say this to the city manager and others, but I was not here then, but in 2010, our ad valorem went down, like significantly down, like 15%. It did not recover for 7 years. So I just put that out there as a, that's more than likely going to happen someday. So we need to be prepared for that. It went down like $1.5 million, and it did not recover for 7 years. So I always tell people to keep that in mind. I mean, that's why I tend to be conservative with spending, because that's a finance director's or an interim finance director's biggest nightmare, is that revenues go south and then you have expenditures, guarantees locked in place of one form or another. So if your ad valorem revenues go down by $1.5 million and you have, let's say, $1 million in extra benefits created by PD or fire contracts or whatever, then what? So just FYI.
Well, that's why I figured, because I know they, with unions, they want to do 2-year contracts, and I thought there was something where they were already slated for an additional raise. I thought they had one last year.
Yeah, the fire has, they had one every year. A
Yeah.
3% step and a 1% COLA in this contract. And then, you know, what happens in the PD does not currently have that, but I believe they're going to be trying to get something similar to that.
I'm sure. Any other questions, guys?
No?
All right, well, thank you, and
you,
meeting
Jeffrey.
adjourned. No audience.